This is a very beautiful still life that I've set up for my students in my studio. They are porcelain pots by Dale Lambert, and I've put them on a mirror so that the reflections become just as important compositionally and formally as the actual objects themselves. And some very interesting paintings are coming out of this still life from my various students. You'll see often how the shape of the lighter bowls is thrown forward by the darker reflections of the bowls behind. So it becomes more complicated the more you look at it. And the beautiful stripes on the two stripy bowls have the potential of forming a very striking focal point for this composition. But because we're working today just with very, very simple still lifes, I'm going to look at just tackling 2 of these pots and not putting 5 in at all. We're going to change the view of the camera to the other side, and we're just going to look at creating a simple still life just out of 2 of these pots. Because the exercises in this module are concentrating on very, very simple subject matter, we are only going to tackle, or I am only going to tackle for you the view of these 2 pots at the end. So if you can see any other pots in the video, don't worry about them. We're just dealing with these 2 beautiful pots and their reflections. I've created a planning sketch of this little still life, which has incredible, it's almost Zen-like in its stillness and its beauty. I have manufactured some shapes in the background because I would like to have a lost edge there. I would like to have a found edge there. I would like these edges to be lost, so where you see my little squiggles, there's a lost edge there. A portion of this whole bowl, the edge is lost altogether here, and it's only defined by its stripes. The edge of this bowl is being shown up by the stripes and the tone on that bowl. Planning sketches are marvelous for sorting out your ideas and the potential of your subject matter. The pot here is incredibly light, but it wouldn't show up if it didn't have the dark background here and the medium tone reflection of this pot there to show up this wonderful white light here. We've got a beautiful lost edge there. I don't see this edge of this pot at all. It's completely lost against the background. So remember from what we've learned in previous modules that lost edges are very, very desirable. They keep the flow of your painting going. Right, so I've transferred my little sketch onto the watercolor paper. Remember, we're working on quarter sheets, and I'm not going to paint this whole thing. I'm just going to give an introduction and get the very first washes completed. I see the still life in terms of ultramarine blue and very, very, very pale raw umber, and those are the 2 colors I'm going to use. I'm not going to use anything else. Because there is so much white in this little still life, it's a very, very high key setup. That means that there are no very dark tones at all, and there's a lot of light. I'm not going to do an overall wash over the whole thing. Just for a change, I'm going to paint object by object. This doesn't happen very often, but that's what I'm going to do. And I see almost a touch of pink in this the little white bowl. If you'd like to pan, if the camera would like to pan there, it's a sort of a pinky brown that I'm seeing in that bowl at the moment. So I'm taking my raw umber and I'm just adding a tiny touch of alizarin to it, just to give it a pinky glow. and I'm going to put it on the front pot, very, very, very pale indeed, observing that there is very pure white light on the side. So here we go, in very, very light with a big brush at this stage. There's a lost edge here. And they're highlights at this end. I'm feeling for the shape. Feeling for the shape. Now, there's quite a bit of shadow down here. So I'm going to go straight into the reflection, which is the same colour, but there seems to be more shadow in the reflection than there is in the pot. It's cut off by the edge of the mirror. I'm just going to take a tiny touch of my blue and just put it in wet into the shadowier sections of this bowl. Okay, and here we go. Actually, much shadier in the reflection, so I'm putting extra blue in the reflection. It's difficult to gauge how dark to go because you still, although it's in shadow, you can't lose the feeling that it's a white pot. It's got to still look white. Tiny bit of shadow in there up against that light edge. And there's a lost edge here where the tones flow together. Just needs sharpening up at that corner. Yeah, there's the first pot. You will see that the further pot, the pot at the back, is a much cooler white than the pot in the front. The pot in the front has definitely got earthy undertones. The one at the back is very, very grey, a grey white. So in order to get the different feeling in temperature of these two pots, I'm going to put a very, very, very pale bluey grey glaze over this entire pot before I start on any of the shading or any of the stripes. So I'm using my ultramarine blue, and I'm going to put the tiniest touch of burnt umber in it. If you put raw umber in it, the raw umber is warmer, it's got more yellow, and it would have a sort of a greener tinge like here. But using the burnt umber, it's a much cooler brown, and with the blue it makes a wonderful soft grey. And that is what I'm going to paint over this entire pot for a start. I should really wet it first. Let me wet first to get a cleaner wash. Very careful with your edges. Remember, this pot is defining the light on that pot. Without the dark on this pot, this one doesn't exist, or it hasn't got an edge. Okay. And of course you always paint the shadow, the reflection at the same time. You can't paint it tomorrow because you might not get exactly that colour again. Do it all at once. And once again, this grey is defining the white edge reflection of the front pot. So again we find a really nice clean edge there. But it's almost enough. I just think that when it dries it might be even more invisible than it is now. So I'm going to put a little bit of extra tone into it. Especially on the shadow side. Just about the tone that we need to show this up. While my pots are drying, I'm just going to put some of the soft shapes that I've sort of designed there. I haven't taken exactly what I see. I've put shapes in the background according to my needs. Where I need dark tone to show up the edge of a pot, I've made it darker than I see it. It's more important to get a good painting than it is to reproduce exactly what you see, because exactly what you see might not give you the strength that you need to make it eye-catching enough. I put a very pale grey at the back here because it would be quite nice to get a bit of a lost edge there. And this pale grey is going to come all the way through here. So it's making this pot quite invisible. But don't worry, it's got these lovely stripes on it, so it will come to life in due course. Right, there's that one. And then I've got another palish wash here in the foreground. Once again, I'm going to have a lost edge here. It's lovely. And this is also going to be a little bit lost at the top. I'm going to grade it down so it gets lighter and lighter towards the bottom. A little bit too strong here. Showing up the bottom of this pot. Now, just for your interest, I want to show you a partly finished watercolor of one of my students who has worked on this still life that we have already seen, and she has taken 3 different groups of pots and created her own compositional space. It's not realistic space, and she's very interestingly created these lovely curved shapes and just made this imaginary pattern in the background. She has seen the whole thing in terms of cobalt blue and raw sienna, and you'll see here she's just put her preliminary washes in mainly to isolate the white, so that she can see exactly where her whites are going to be left. And she's just started working very gently with a little bit of raw umber there over the raw sienna, just starting to indicate some of that beautiful pattern in the porcelain. So I think this has got a lot of promise and it's going to be a lovely painting.